I don't think most people would want to be me. They may think they would want to be me, but they don't know. They don't understand.
You get lonely?
Sometimes.
Yes. So you finally made it to the rich 1% of the ultra wealthy, meaning that you now have unimaginable wealth. And to the poor, you have the perfect life. From gold Lamborghinis, gold toilets and toilet papers, private jets, helicopters, luxury yachts, and fancy islands. Simply put, anything money can buy, you've got. But there's a problem. Who knew being a billionaire absolutely sucks? While that might sound crazy for most people to believe, to quote Notorious B.I.G., more money equals more problems. And this quote sadly sums up the untold story of why billionaires and super rich celebrities are all so miserable.
And I was absolutely broken.
I know tons of people who have hundreds of millions of dollars in their bank account.
You see, on the outside, it looks like billionaires have everything. The money, the houses, the popularity, and influence. They get to play by their own rule, as well as having the freedom of never having to worry about money, or so we thought, because the reality of being a billionaire will make you question everything you thought you knew about being a billionaire.
Has your happiness risen at the same amount as your bank account?
No. That's the thing. They don't
equate, or they're not tied in any way.
They're not tied to each other.
After a while, you lose your privacy, and then you're just like, I think fame is isolating. Fame and money too.
The idea of vilifying wealthy people is so bogus.
I'm in 4 lawsuits, and it consumes my fucking life. I'm talking about like hour-long phone calls multiple times a week, depositions, interrogations.
And I know tons of people who I grew up with in the Silicon Valley boom who have hundreds of millions of dollars in their bank account and are as miserable and as lonely and as broken as you'll ever see.
This is not good. People should not work this hard. They should not do this. This is very painful.
Think of it, the internet is filled with stories of various popular and famous celebrities, as well as lottery winners who, instead of money changing their lives for the better, the opposite was the case. And most of these people ended up sad, poor, or in some cases dead, even with all that money. But why is this so? Well, for starters, being rich changes and affects everything about you. When you're rich, it becomes harder to tell those who really love you from those who are in it just for your money. And this kind of thing can put a strain on your relationship, which might explain why rich people end up having terrible breakups and relationships. And that's not even mentioning those crazy divorce cases. And there's also the fact that as a billionaire, you run out of stuff to buy and money loses its value, which might explain the reason why most rich people buy some of the dumbest stuff. Sometimes it's not always about flexing. It's just simply that as a billionaire, you run out of stuff to buy. And all of a sudden, everyone wants something from you. Everyone blames you for all the poverty and suffering in the world. Now, people expect you to donate all your money to charity to pay your fair share. Can you imagine that? And you're probably worried that when you die, your spoiled kids are going to inherit all that wealth, and chances are that you're going to squander all that money you worked so hard for. And while most of us think billionaires are sitting on piles of cash, in reality, most billionaires are broke, at least on paper, because they have to come up with clever ways to hide their wealth from those greedy politicians and lawmakers looking to tax them.
Friend Warren Buffett pays a lower tax rate than his secretary. These same folks are paying taxes at one of the lowest rates in 50 years.
Wealth, this is according to Oxfam, of the world's 85 richest people is equal to the 3.5 billion poorest people.
What can be wrong with this?
Really?
Yes, really.
So somebody living on
I celebrate capitalism.
$1 a day in Africa is getting up in the morning and saying, I'm going to be Bill Gates.
That's the motivation everybody needs.
Only thing between me and
I'm
that
not
guy
against
is
charity.
motivation. I just need to pull up my socks. I don't have socks.
Jeff Bezos on Amazon Prime Day became worth $150 billion. When he's worth that much money, you begin to start asking the question, are companies like this, who are paying their employees so little, gaming the system?
It's not right. We're going to reform corporate taxes so they pay their fair share.
Billionaire Leon Cooperman is back in the news again, crying about the fact that he feels that billionaires are being demonized unfairly.
Some of these methods include keeping all their money in bonds, stocks, shares, and offshore accounts. And that's not even the worst part about being a billionaire, because I must warn you, things only get darker from here.
Mr. Zuckerberg, you and the companies before us, I know you don't mean it to be so, but you have blood on your hands. You have a product. You have a product that's killing people.
Microsoft in the early 1990s was the largest company in the world, incredibly successful. And they spent exactly $0 on lobbying, on cronyism, on lawyers. They had no presence in Washington, D.C. And they were literally brought in front of Congress. They were yelled at by a Republican, Orrin Hatch from Utah. He said, you guys need to get involved here in Washington, D.C. You need to build a building here. You need to hire lawyers here. In other words, the unspoken text, you need to bribe me. And Microsoft walked out of the meeting and said, you know what? You leave us alone, we will leave you alone. We're busy. We're running the biggest company in the world. There's a lot to do.
The Justice Department has charged Microsoft.
6 months later, knock on the door at Microsoft. We're from the Justice Department. And we're here to prosecute you because you are offering the American public, you're offering your customers a product for free. This is Internet Explorer at a time when we were buying Netscape and paying money for it. They offered it for free. And that was deemed, bad business practices. They were trying to dominate the market. For 10 years, they had to fight that lawsuit. They lost, they got regulated, they got controlled. Guess how much Microsoft spends today in Washington, D.C.? How much? Tens of millions of dollars. They have a beautiful building about equal distance from the White House and from Congress. They have lawyers, they have lobbyists, they spend a lot of money, and indeed a lot of the other tech companies like Google learned the lesson.
The Hong Kong real estate tycoon Thomas Kwok was today sentenced to 5 years in jail, bringing to an end a spectacular 7-month trial which has fascinated Hong Kong society.
There have been more than 20 mysterious deaths involving Russian businessmen since the war in Ukraine started.
Add to that, at least 5 more deaths of Russian businessmen this year, all reportedly died by suicide.
So you spent all that time and hard work building up a business only to realize that all that hard work could be flushed down the drain if you step on the wrong toes. And by the wrong toes, we mean those annoying little politicians. I mean, think of it. One annoying lawmaker wakes up on the wrong side of the bed and creates some laws that gives an edge to your competitors. Now we can't have that now, can we? Which might explain why most billionaires spend hundreds of billions on donating to the election and campaigns of politicians in an attempt to gain favor from those politicians when they get in office. But sometimes this is not enough, because one wrong move, one misstep, one change of government, and your entire empire could come crashing down. And if you're a billionaire in Russia or China, well, things can get a whole lot worse.
China Renaissance plunging overnight in Hong Kong after that company said that its chairman and CEO is missing.
But since giving this speech that was critical of China's government, Jack Ma hasn't been seen in public, and now many are questioning, where is Jack Ma?
He is being punished for speaking his mind. Ren disappeared last month. Now China says he's under investigation. He's accused of quote-unquote serious violations of discipline and law.
Suicide.
Is there anyone who actually believes these people are falling out of windows?
Dozens have been purged, from billionaire oligarchs through to political rivals.
And in places like the US and the UK, as a billionaire, you're brought before Congress to testify, where they make you look like the villain. The message is clear and simple. When you're big enough to matter, you either bend the knee or get hung from the gallows. Your privacy totally goes out the window. Now, no one respects your privacy anymore. Your every action and life is constantly in the public eye. And now something even as simple as taking a morning jog or walk can turn into an altercation with the paparazzi. And just like that, you're on the news for the wrong reasons. And it just takes one scandal, one controversy, one off moment to ruin you. And there's also the chance that on the road to making all that billions, you might have had to do some sketchy things as well as stepping on some powerful tools. Because I mean, think of it, anyone can make it to $1 million through hard work, but making it to $1 billion sometimes requires you to play dirty. And this can be anything from fraud, tax evasion, money laundering, or exploiting of cheap labor and monopolistic practices, which means that most billionaires never actually feel safe and are constantly looking over their shoulders, which might explain why most billionaires spend thousands of dollars on security for themselves and their family. And that's not all. Your workers as well as other people hold protests outside of your house demanding for higher wages, and there are even those who will gladly sue you for the craziest and dumbest reasons. And I know that many of you might still be thinking, I would take all of that if it meant I would never have to worry about money again. Well, think again. Because while most people believe that billionaires never have to worry about money again, the opposite is the case. Most billionaires are always paranoid about losing it all and going back to zero. Just think of it. If you work in 9 to 5 and you lose your job, well, you can always get a new job. But as a billionaire, if you lose it all, it means starting from zero. And this is one thing that most billionaires are always constantly worried about. And this insecurity pushes them to chase more and more money in the attempt to feel more secure, but they never do. As a matter of fact, it becomes an endless obsession and circle of them chasing more money, cars, houses, yachts, private jets, and mansion, hoping to feel happy. To quote Tyler Durden from Fight Night, the things you own end up owning you. Okay, so at this point, you're probably wondering if getting rich is worth it. Well, in reality, getting rich isn't a bad thing. The major thing about getting rich is understanding that chasing more and more money doesn't make you happy. As a matter of fact, there are people who own less and are happier than most billionaires out there. The major thing is to ensure that you don't get to a point where your fame, your popularity ends up owning you. You have to ensure that you make it a priority to be happy and not to tie your happiness to all that wealth, to all that popularity and all that stardom, because all of that could go away. But one thing that remains is happiness is a choice, and it has nothing to do with wealth. It simply is a choice. You can deliberately choose to be happy.
My name is Red Pill Republic, and if you enjoyed this video, then you should definitely subscribe to the Red Pill Army, where we make countless videos like this on war, crime, and business. And always remember to stay red-pilled.